Breaking news! Something unexpected happened during the latest stretch of Cincinnati Bengals OTAs, and it wasn't a flashy touchdown, a headline-grabbing interception, or a major controversy. Instead, it was the emergence of a player who arrived with little fanfare, but suddenly found himself at the center of conversations surrounding the team's off-season program. At the same time, important developments involving the safety competition, the front office, and Joe Burrow helped shape what turned into a very revealing week for Cincinnati. As the Bengals now shift their attention toward mandatory minicamp, there are several storylines that fans should be paying close attention to. Before we dive in, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss any Bengals updates throughout minicamp, training camp, and the upcoming season. There is a lot happening around Cincinnati right now, and the next few weeks could tell us even more about where this team is headed. Now, let's get to what matters. As the Bengals wrapped up another phase of OTAs, one name continued to come up over and over again: Jur Taylor. When Cincinnati brought him in, there wasn't a massive reaction from the fan base. Many viewed him primarily as a special teams contributor, a versatile depth piece who could potentially help in multiple areas if given the opportunity. But throughout this latest week of OTAs, Taylor did much more than simply blend into the background. According to observations from the practices, he consistently found himself working alongside the starters and receiving valuable reps with the first-team unit. That is what makes this development so interesting. OTA performances should always be viewed with some caution. There are no regular season games being played. There are no final roster decisions being made. Players can have good weeks and bad weeks. But when a player repeatedly earns opportunities with the first-team group, people notice, coaches notice, teammates notice, reporters notice. And that is exactly what happened with Taylor. Reports from the week highlighted multiple pass breakups and strong overall play. There wasn't a single viral moment that dominated social media. There wasn't one spectacular play that instantly changed perceptions. Instead, it was something arguably more important: consistency. Day after day, Taylor reportedly continued to perform well while working with starters and showing his versatility across multiple positions. That versatility may end up being his biggest advantage. The Bengals have been moving him around. He has been seen at safety. He has been seen at nickel corner. There is discussion about his ability to contribute on the outside as well. That flexibility creates opportunities because the coaching staff can potentially use him in several different situations. Instead of being limited to one specific role, Taylor appears to be proving that he can help wherever he is needed. That creates an interesting conversation about where he ultimately fits on this roster. The safety room remains a major area of focus. Brian Cook is part of the picture, while Jordan Battle and Kyle Duggar continue to be discussed as players competing for important snaps. Meanwhile, Taylor's strong week has inserted him into conversations that many fans probably did not expect just a few weeks ago. What makes this especially noteworthy is how quickly perceptions can change during the off-season. Earlier, many people questioned whether Taylor would even become a significant talking point. Now, after multiple OTA practices, he has become one of the most discussed players from the entire period. That doesn't guarantee anything for the regular season. It doesn't automatically lock him into a major role. But it does mean he has successfully put himself on the radar heading into mandatory minicamp. And if he continues performing at this level, the Bengals will have some interesting decisions to make. While Taylor emerged as one of the biggest winners of the week, another storyline centered around Jordan Battle. This is where context becomes important. Nobody is suggesting that Battle had a disastrous OTA period. Nobody is claiming he suddenly lost his place on the roster. In fact, the discussion isn't really about poor performance at all. Instead, it is about timing and competition. During a period when several players in the safety group were drawing positive attention, Battle was absent from one OTA session because he was participating in an event involving the U.S. Navy. The absence itself was not portrayed as a major issue. OTAs are voluntary, and many players around the league miss portions of these workouts for various reasons. The report specifically avoided turning it into a controversy. However, football is often about opportunity. While Battle was away, other players continued accumulating valuable reps. Duggar received attention. Taylor continued generating buzz. Conversations surrounding the safety competition continued evolving. And because Battle is competing for an important role opposite Brian Cook, every practice naturally becomes significant. The discussion is less about one missed day and more about the reality of competition. The Bengals are evaluating multiple options. Coaches are gathering information. Players are trying to separate themselves from one another. In that environment, every opportunity to practice, learn the defense, and demonstrate improvement carries value. That is why the safety battle remains one of the more fascinating storylines heading into mandatory minicamp. Battle has shown flashes before. Duggar continues to receive attention. Taylor is making noise. Brian Cook remains a central figure in the room. As the evaluation process continues, fans should expect this competition to remain a major talking point throughout the summer. Beyond the individual players, another major winner from the week was the Bengals front office. Whether fans agree with every decision or not, there was significant praise directed toward the organization's leadership following a series of important developments. The conversation focused on the work being done behind the scenes, particularly involving contracts and roster management. The report pointed to major contract activity involving Joe Burrow and also highlighted the fully guaranteed 4-year, $12 million contract given to second-round pick Cashes. According to the discussion, it represented a historic step for the organization because the Bengals had never previously fully guaranteed a second-round pick's contract. Those moves contributed to the growing perception that the front office is aggressively working to position the team for success. Names such as the Brown family, Katie Blackburn, Steve Radicevich, and Duke Tobin were all mentioned as part of the larger organizational effort. The overall message coming from the team was one of commitment and urgency. That brings us to perhaps the most interesting topic of all: Joe Burrow. Not because of something negative. Actually, the exact opposite. One of the strongest takeaways from the week was the growing belief that any narratives suggesting Burrow is unhappy in Cincinnati simply do not match what people are seeing around the team. The discussion repeatedly emphasized that rumors about Burrow being dissatisfied, wanting out, or becoming a trade candidate have lost credibility. Why? Because everything surrounding Burrow appears to point in the opposite direction. The observations highlighted his presence during voluntary activities, his interactions with teammates, his work ethic, and his involvement with younger players. Coaches, players, and media members were all described as speaking positively about Burrow's mindset and enthusiasm. The feeling coming out of OTAs was simple. Joe Burrow looks happy. He looks engaged. He looks invested. And that perception became one of the biggest stories of the week. For Bengals fans, that is obviously encouraging. Franchise quarterbacks influence everything. They influence culture. They influence confidence. They influence expectations. When the quarterback is viewed as energized and fully committed, that confidence tends to spread throughout the entire organization. As a result, the report labeled negative Burrow rumors as one of the biggest losers coming out of OTAs. The reasoning was straightforward. The atmosphere around the team simply doesn't support those stories. Instead, the prevailing mood is optimism. That optimism extends beyond Burrow and reaches the broader roster as Cincinnati continues preparing for the next stage of the offseason. Now, attention turns toward mandatory minicamp. Unlike the OTA sessions, attendance becomes mandatory. That means coaches will have another valuable opportunity to evaluate competitions across the roster, continue implementing schemes, and build momentum heading into training camp. For players like Jur Taylor, this next phase becomes especially important. Can he continue building on the momentum he generated during OTAs? Can he maintain his place among the most talked-about players on the roster? Can he turn a strong week of practices into a legitimate role moving forward? Those questions remain unanswered, but they will be worth watching closely. The same applies to the safety competition. Will Jordan Battle respond with a strong minicamp performance? Will Kyle Duggar continue gaining momentum? Will Brian Cook further establish himself? And where exactly does Taylor fit into all of it? Those are some of the biggest questions facing the team right now. The Bengals also released information regarding public training camp practices, including several opportunities for fans to attend and watch the team prepare for the season. One date specifically highlighted was the August 7th stadium practice, which was described as an event expected to generate significant excitement among the fan base. So after 6 OTA practices and countless discussions about roster battles, player development, contracts, and team chemistry, the Bengals now move into the next chapter of the offseason. The biggest winner may have been Jur Taylor. The most closely watched competition may be at safety. The front office continues receiving praise for its recent work. And perhaps most importantly for Bengals fans, the positive momentum surrounding Joe Burrow appears stronger than ever. Now the focus shifts to mandatory minicamp, where these storylines will continue evolving and where players will have another opportunity to prove themselves before training camp officially arrives. What do you think, Bengals fans? Is Jur Taylor the biggest surprise of OTAs? Who wins the safety battle heading into the season? And do you believe the positive energy surrounding Joe Burrow is the biggest takeaway from this entire offseason? Let me know your thoughts. Who Dey?